So everything's kind of everything that we have is IP addressable. So it's all about the Internet of Things, and which is, when you're talking about guys like yourself that are, doing big projects and buildings, the last thing anybody thinks about is the datacom stuff. And the datacom stuff is really what the heartbeat of your whole building is. I mean, it's the heart of the body within your, I'd rather be, hit a button and my data transfers in, a millisecond versus sitting on an ergonomically designed chair. But inevitably, it's usually the last thing that everybody thinks about is the datacom, and
you don't see it.
They skimp on it. It's behind the walls. They don't think about it, and it's an afterthought. And then later on, everybody's pulling their hair out because their computers are slow, their phones go down. Everything now is connected to the internet. I mean.
All right, live in the air with Parallel Solutions.
Hello.
Vince Panico, welcome to the show, buddy.
Thank you for having me here. Glad to come in and talk about a little bit, little show and tell I brought in for some new products, and just kind of good to be on the podcast.
So
today.
Usually,
don't hit me with the hammer.
I bang it because that syncs up my sound.
Perfect.
So up until now, all the guys we've had in here have been like strictly tradesmen that we work with. So this is good. This is the first time we're actually getting on the vendor side a little bit. Parallel Solutions does what? Supports all low voltage stuff?
Yep. We're a manufacturer's rep firm in 4 different states: Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, and Wisconsin. And what we do is we're a rep firm, and the difference of a rep firm, we're actually an extended arm of the manufacturers, and the products that I represent are all within the datacom industry. So everything's kind of everything that we have is IP addressable. So it's all about the Internet of Things, and which is, when you're talking about guys like yourself that are, doing big projects and buildings, the last thing anybody thinks about is the datacom stuff. And the datacom stuff is really what the heartbeat of your whole building is. I mean, it's the heart of the body within your, I'd rather be, hit a button and my data transfers in, a millisecond versus sitting on an ergonomically designed chair. But inevitably, it's usually the last thing that everybody thinks about is the datacom, and
you don't see it.
They skimp on it. It's behind the walls. They don't think about it, and it's an afterthought. And then later on, everybody's pulling their hair out because their computers are slow, their phones go down. Everything now is connected to the internet. I mean, some of the products we represent, obviously, Belden is our big anchor line, and everything is connected with cable. Now, I mean, your thermostats are your lighting, everything's PoE, power over Ethernet. So they're even running electrical now.
So explain that to me, though. I've never really quite grasped that concept. Power goes through the Ethernet cable, right?
Correct.
How much power are we talking about?
Well, you're going to be able to run 100 watts of power pretty soon. So it's
not with the current Cat 6 stuff.
With Cat 6A cable, a shielded Cat 6A, you could run 100 watts of power
right now.
So
what are they trying to jack that up to?
Well, they're trying to just streamline it so that the cables don't get hot. Right now, they're able to do it for short distances. They want to do it for longer distances because the cable gets too hot, and that's where the shielding on the cable comes in. So when you have bundled cables and you got all these cables running, like PoE lighting and whatnot, even though they're very low draws, but coming very soon in the near future, you'll just plug an RJ45 cable into your television. It'll power your television.
Lights too, right?
Power your lights. I mean, they have it. Now there's jobs that are downtown right now that are, certified and done with PoE lighting.
Well, there's going to, if you really think about it, there's going to be a point, because it's useful for me as a contractor, because if I don't have, that's a lot of conduit and a lot of cabling for power that you don't have to run for light fixtures.
Correct.
It makes up a pretty good size of the budget.
Yep.
And that's going to be a big innovation coming up.
Well, unions are fighting it, because it's going to take a lot of work away from the electricians. So,
but I mean, it's not going to be able to stop it. Eventually, the economics are going to make it work.
Well, that's why your bigger companies have all absorbed datacom guys. There really aren't too many true standalone datacom guys. Your big electrical companies have, an electrical division, they have a datacom division, they have a security division, they have an AV division, so they can do it all in one, fall swoop.
So let me ask you this. So how do you get started being a datacom guy?
I started 2 weeks out of college. My mother was a purchasing agent for IBM. So the minute I got out of college, I had an interview with every distributor. So it was, Annixter, CSC, Gray Bar, so I was, right away, my mom's like, I got all these interviews set up for you, go. So I, started in the, I picked CSC. Back then, they only had 3 locations. Now, they just were acquired by Wesco, and then they bought Annixter. So it's a whole big, massive company. So I worked there.
So it's kind of an incestuous business, though, right? There's
For
not
sure.
a lot of them.
Nope. And once you're in it, it's hard to ever get out. So it's, you can't, once you've done it for 2-3 years and you have the relationships, it's kind of a relationship business. It's, the good old boy network, especially in Chicago. Chicago and New York are, a little bit different. I have different territories, so I see how it's different in the different territories, and you have to sell differently in different places.
So as somebody coming out of college that's looking into this and here's this, what's it like to start off? I mean, did they just throw you in and say, hey, call all these guys cold? And
I couldn't even believe when I started this. I was like that guy on the toilet paper commercial that would call his buddies like, you'll never believe where I'm at. It was, we used to call it conspicuous consumption. Back then, expenses were 100% write-off, so it was just a major entertainment business. You just went out and entertained people at night. You worked during the day at your office. And as a 22-year-old kid right out of college, with season tickets for the Bears, the Blackhawks, the Cubs, I mean, you couldn't go to enough events during the day. It was
like Mad Men.
It was fun doing it. It was great. I mean, times have changed now, but there's still a lot of entertainment in this business. I mean, you do it all the time, golf outings and, chair hockey and,
Yeah, so it's a lot of that.
It's a lot of that, but you still have to do your during the day stuff too.
But it's nothing like what it used to be.
No, it certainly isn't. I mean, it's totally different. But if you don't embrace change, change will embrace you and choke your life out. So, I had 22 years within CSC. We were bought out. I probably, got more of a master's degree education than I would have got from any college, just based on having skin in the game when we were going public. And then once the company became public, it was, all, like you said, it was deflated. That fun kind of came out of it. So I thought about, hey, what can I do to stay in this industry but still have my own business, not try to compete with the 800-pound gorilla and do the same thing that they're doing. So I figured I'd do a rep business, and I called it Parallel Solutions because we were going to run in parallel with the distributors that I was already working with. So I still was able to maintain all my contractor relationships, my end user relationships, and then added the different distributors that were my competitors and started.
How do you you think about it? People don't get it. Like I understand how it is to be an architect and then transition into being a general contractor. Sales for a lot of people is just an all-encompassing thing. They think if you could sell a sponge, you could sell data cable, you could sell a turkey. And, I think maybe some of that is true, but you have to know what you're talking about in order to sell something, right?
Correct.
What does it make to be what is it like to be at the top of sales? What do you have to have?
I'm gonna tell you, you have to have a personality, and you have to know the product to some extent, but you can't immerse yourself in it and be too technical because then you're the technical guy, right? That's for a sales engineer. It's a whole different skill set to be a sales engineer versus being a salesman. So, what my old boss told me when I first started, don't lie, call people back, and exceed expectations. And really, like you said, to your point, it really is, no matter what it is you're selling, if you can do those 3 things, and they seem really easy to do, but it's just so easy to tell a lie. And if you do that, you blow your whole relationship. And, like this whole business, it's about being in it for the long haul. And the longer you're in it, if you add one, I don't care if you're selling insurance or real estate, whatever you're doing, as you progress with your business, you add 1 or 2 customers a year, before you know it, you've got more customers than you can handle.
Yeah.
You know, so it's it really is a lot of that. It's about knowing what your product is. I mean, you have to be able to add substance. You can't just come in and be a pretty face. You have to
like you,
like me, and supermodel. So it just
well, I mean, we have sales guys here too, but you need to see if you could pull this a little closer to your face, like a foot away or so, or a fist away. We have sales guys here also, and the thing that I've noticed is that in sales, everybody's more gregarious than the average monkey, right? Everybody's got a different style, but you have to get pleasure out of interaction with people. You've got to, you know what I'm saying? There's some guys that will sit there and draw all day, and that's what gives them their like artists. They get pleasure out of that. People don't understand that. What makes a good salesperson is that they would do it 7 days a week, 24/7. They love doing it, and that's part of the whole what it takes.
Even with my stuff, I mean, once you've been doing it for a long time, your friends are your customers, are your friends are your customers.
Yeah.
I mean, they let you go with a credit card. You're buying drinks and dinner all the time, and if you can't make friends, something's wrong with your personality.
You can't make friends with free money.
Right, exactly. So it's a good thing. It's a bad thing. It kind of intertwines with your personal life if you're really into it. And I've always really been into it. I mean, I wanted to be a sales guy when I was 8 years old. It was just that some people want to be a doctor, a lawyer, a cop, a fireman. I wanted to be a sales guy. It didn't matter what I was selling.
Sales guys have a unique personality.
Yep.
They're born that way.
Yep. I think they're to a certain extent, but. Here I also say this all the time to everybody. I say it to my kids. No matter what you're doing, you're selling yourself, right? You have to sell yourself all day long. If you're a doctor, you have to have a good bedside manner, or you're not going to get repeat patients. Everybody is a salesman. You're a salesman. Everybody is constantly selling themselves every day.
I guess to be effective at it requires that gene.
Correct.
You got to have it.
Makes a difference.
Yeah. So let me ask you this: for you sell a bunch of products. You got Belden, Mohawk, Hoffman, Oberon, WBTs.
Yep.
So Zero Connect. All your guys. If you go on your website, I can look at all the guys that you're repping.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
In the construction industry, really, I don't run into a lot of reps for the products. I do run into a lot of it through the architects. So the architects will say, here's my rep for this line of flooring or this carpet. I want you to call him because he gave me a good deal, and it gets put into your project through the spec or whatever. So I don't really have the relationship with the rep. You do, right? You're dealing with these guys. That's your blood.
We're calling on consultants. We're calling on contractors. We're calling on end users. We don't really. We're one of the few that calls on general contractors like yourself, and our reasoning behind that is, obviously you guys don't buy anything directly, but it's about getting information, and a lot of times it's just a matter of who found out about the project first, and it's so you guys give us information. We use that information to talk to contractors. We try to influence the job where we can and get a leg up on projects.
Well, where I find them helpful is the rep. If the rep comes out onto the job site to solve a problem,
yep,
and they fix the problem, I'll remember that, and I'll keep that guy in my Rolodex of problem solvers.
We do that every day, right?
So, but a lot of the reps that I don't like are the guys that come out. They make you wait 2 weeks to come out, number one. Then they get out there, and it's never their fault, or they shove the problem off on something else, or they come up with a technicality as to why you didn't meet the certain criteria and the instructions that their company made up. So they're not going to stand behind it. So there's two different kinds of reps, right?
Yep.
The most effective, and I got to think that the guys who are held in the highest regard in the industry are the guys that solve problems.
Correct. All day long. I mean, and that's part of those three things that I told you about. That's exceeding expectations. Your expectations is I'm going to show up, right? And hopefully you have low expectations, and it's easy for me to exceed those. But for the most part, I'm going to come out there and I'm going to solve the problem. Whether that's going to cost us money or not, I'm looking to be in this business, forever. So it's my reputation, what we do, repeat business. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I had my mentor actually in architecture was a guy that he came from Skidmore. He came from some of the bigger architectural firms when I got out of college, I was making like $9 an hour, being a first-year apprentice. But the guy would always say, there's always a problem to be solved. If you can solve the problem, you become valuable. If you become valuable, now all of a sudden people start to notice you. When people start to notice you, good things happen. But you can't do any of that unless you're good at solving a problem.
Right.
So, like, for me, it's easy. In my business, there's always problems. There's like, I can wake up in the morning, without even trying, there's 5 problems.
Same here.
Right? So, to me, that is the thing that makes good people stand out from the average Joe.
I say it all the time. I love it when my phone rings on a Saturday because it's somebody in a panic. Nobody else is answering their phone. That's, it goes, again, exceeding their expectation. They're really not expecting you to answer that phone on a Saturday. I mean, I had an issue one time. Notre Dame had a big fire in one of their tunnels, and they had to get the school up and running when I was in distribution. And they called me on a Saturday morning, and I went to the warehouse, called my manager. We got the place open, took the reels. I rented a U-Haul truck, drove it there. You drove it there? Drove it there. That was 20 years ago. Those guys still remember that.
That was that was on campus?
That was on campus.
South Bend?
In one of their steam tunnels. Yep.
They have steam tunnels in South Bend still.
For sure.
Jeez.
It's antique over there. Their dorms don't even have air conditioning still.
Yeah, there's a lot of open dorms there.
Yeah.
So you're in Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, and Michigan.
Correct.
And is that it? Like no Iowa? No,
that's it. No Iowa. I mean, that's as far as we go. It's
as far as the U-Haul will travel?
Yeah, exactly. As far as the U-Haul will go.
So I got to assume that you're big into, let's see, Michigan. You're probably into Detroit.
University of Michigan is a big Belden user now. So we're doing the U of M. We do Northwestern University. We do all of BMO Harris is all a hard spec Belden product. I mean, we're doing and then some of my other products like Cambridge, which is sound masking, which is very, very.
Yeah, we're just talking about that. I need that.
At
my
top of everybody's mind.
How's that
these
work?
Days. Well, it just it doesn't stop the sound from being in the space, but it makes it unintelligible. So you'll be able to hear that somebody's talking in the other room, but you won't be able to tell what they're saying. So it's for privacy.
My kids have that built in.
What?
Already.
Oh yeah, exactly. They all do.
It's
selective hearing. So does my wife.
Yeah. So that's just a frequency thing.
Yeah, it's a frequency. It makes the.
What does it look like?
It just goes in the ceiling. They're like little. It's very unobtrusive. They're little discs. They go in the ceiling. They're spaced. They do the design for you. They put them in certain spots, and they're all on a frequency so that our speech together, when we're here talking, you can hear me talking and be able to clearly hear it, but people outside the room can't tell what we're saying.
So how effective is that? Would that replace stuff like sound walls and like physical barriers? Is it more effective than a physical barrier?
I would think a physical barrier would probably be the best, but what you do with the sound masking, it's all, like I said, they're used in all the Walgreens stores, which is also another big Belden account for us.
That's why they can never get my order.
Yeah, but like if you're up there ordering your Viagra, you don't want the guy behind you hearing what you're ordering.
So is it directional?
They're directional. They have it 2 different ways. They either have an up-firing system that's like a shotgun approach, which is above the ceiling grid, and it bounces off the deck and then comes down like a shotgun. Or they have the direct firing system. So the up-firing is called our Dynasound, and our down-firing is called the QT Pro, which is much more effective.
If you knew where the people were standing in line at Walgreens, for instance,
correct,
and the guy didn't want to know that he was ordering Viagra, you could point it so that the guy behind him.
Well, it would be the whole area, right? It wouldn't just be in one little spot.
How big of a cone does it cover?
You would have them all over the place. They put them about 10 feet apart, the speakers, and so they're all, you go off the wall. It's a certain distance based on the materials of the floor. They do the design for it. So if you have carpet, it doesn't bounce off as much. It's a whole process that Cambridge does design for you on that stuff.
That's cool. So in your office, so you've got, obviously you've got. I don't know. Do you have 4 offices, one in each state?
We do not. We just have one home office here, and the rest of the people are all kind of remote, working out of their houses.
But the contact people for you, if I look on your website, there's like 6 people, right?
There should be 11 people on there.
And those guys
6 people just in Illinois.
And those guys all handle one product, or they all handle?
Nope, we all sell the whole product line.
Oh, so pretty strong.
Well, with our product line, so if I'm coming in to talk to you, if you're doing a building, a home run for me or a grand slam for me would be if you bought all my products, right? If you spec'd in all my products and used all of them. And every single one of those products are in every building. But not all the time will they choose all of my products. They might choose 2 or 3 of them and not the other, 5. So it's basically whatever, some people have a preference. They have a national specification. Their contractor doesn't know how to install the Belden cable or isn't certified, because with the Belden, you have to be certified. Not just anybody can come in and do it, because they offer a 25-year warranty and all that stuff with it.
So why is that? So because there's a million C-card guys out there.
For sure, right.
And you're telling me that an average C-card guy can't install Belden cable unless he knows or he's certified to do it.
Correct. They got to get trained on it.
How is that different from just the regular?
Like CommScope has their training program. Everybody has a training program. You don't want to just let anybody install the product, because then you would get bad installs and it makes the manufacturer look bad. So you want to have some sort of uniformity in your installs. So that's why we have certified installers.
And that's what you got here?
That's what I have here. I have a Rev Connect jack. So it's something that's a little bit different, a lot different than your normal 110 where you punch it down. It's a whole different technology. So the jack is called a Rev jack. And what the Rev jack does, it stands for, is reliable, easy, and versatile. So you do a lot of different things with the jack, and I'll show you. It's all terminated on a core, and then this is just a dummy product. It just holds the cable in place, and all your technology is built into the jacks. And you could either do one termination. You could do a Cat 5e, Cat 6, Cat 6a, shielded or unshielded, a jack, or a modular plug, so you can do any of them. Another important thing that we were talking about is when, stuff goes to 100 watts of power, when you're running 100 watts of power over a cable like this, this jack is rated for 100 watts of power. And I'll show you real quick how it's terminated, and it's a little bit different. It doesn't, it's not terminated the same way as the old jacks that did a 110 termination where you're using a punch down tool. This is more of a...
the way I've always done it, you have to thread it through the block, right?
Correct. Now you don't do that anymore. Or you just kind of put it on these... so you separate your cables out. You strip the cable back and prepare it the same way you do with regular cable. This tool has different cutters and whatnot to keep all your tolerances in place.
Little cigar cutter.
Yeah, we're going to do 568B, which is the most common. So you just put the brown and orange up the front. You'll see there's a, if you can get it in there, there's a color code on the bottom, so it's really easy to figure out. You just put the cables all go into the same spots where where they're
so
designated
easy,
with
even
the
a
color.
rep could
Yeah,
do it.
so easy, even a sales guy can do it.
Yeah.
And your field guys can do this a lot quicker. So the difference with this is you're not separating the pairs of the cable. You're just laying them into the block.
Yeah.
You push them down into the designated channels that are all color coded. So once you get it in there, you can't really screw it up.
You're a lot faster than Cammy.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, the difference is that the way when I saw you do this, I mean, you got it done in like under 30 seconds.
No, under a minute. And even when I showed you how to do it when you were doing some of the jacks in your office,
right.
It's very transferable. So you could teach somebody how to do this. Once you get good at it, that's when the speed comes in with it. You want to do them correct. You don't want to do them fast.
So what's the difference between doing this and doing the way that everybody else has always done?
Because this one, the way that everybody always did it was 110 termination, and this is a different way of doing it. So this is just holding the cable in place. So once you push the stuffer cap on there, it's on there, and so now this is where it makes a difference. So this is terminating it. So it's a one punch tool. So that was just quick instead of punching down 8 times with a punch down tool.
Now you're done?
Done with it. So now you can do this, and here's the beauty of it. If you're waiting for a pink jack and pink jacks aren't in stock, your field guys can terminate. You can buy these cores, and you have them in every truck, in every service truck. This is the versatility of it. This is the V. So you have these on your truck, so you guys can terminate the whole project. Put little caps on top.
Right now, you're done with the termination, right?
I'm done with the termination. All you have to do from here is put the jack on it, okay? And let's say you put the jack on and you put them in the wall, and all of a sudden you say, hey, I thought that was a light blue. I don't want dark blue. I want light blue, or I want green. You take the jack off, no pun intended, and you can put a green one on, you know. Or you could say, hey, I'm done with the jack. Now I want to put a plug on there. I want to put a modular plug on there. So you can go and you can put a modular plug.
And those are the ones that go into the wall.
And these are the ones that go, you know, would plug. This is would go into like a camera, into a WAP, you know. So now you can, instead of
it is a lot. That's like that's like 6 things in one then.
Correct.
So,
and once you learn how to use one termination, you don't have to have a different blade or a different tool for 5E, 6, 6A, or shielded or unshielded. Here's even a shielded jack. You could take the plug off, and then you could just, you know, you could put a shielded on if you had to put shielded.
I mean,
you're done.
So what's the time difference between that and in the way, if I had a regular Cat 5e cable, strip, thread through the block?
The time difference is probably about, you know, I would say maybe you save 10% of your time in putting this on.
In labor.
In labor. The biggest difference is the versatility of this, right? So now I can do so many different things with this.
That looks way faster than the other way.
But I can do so many different things with this also. You know, I could put a bag over all this. I can bag and tag all this stuff, put it in the walls, paint, and then come back in a pristine environment and put a totally clean jack on. Instead of having the jacks out there and then there's dust in there, and all of a sudden you get, you know, your jack gets contaminated, and then all of a sudden it doesn't hit the contacts correctly.
So I'm saying that's really, you know, I got to tell you, I mean, for something that you don't usually think this is interesting, but I've seen this stuff for 20 years, and that whole process to punch that all stuff down, that's laborious.
Correct.
This doesn't look like it's that bad.
No, and it's so much easier and less impact. But here's the thing, Jeff. The problem is that people have been doing it one way for so many years that everybody is like a creature of habit. You know, it gets to the field, the guy's like, oh, this thing sucks. This doesn't work, because they're not.
But I mean, I've never done that, and I could tell you that I would rather do that than going blind, punching down a block with a pin.
Yeah.
It should be a no-brainer.
We're having to force people to use it. So what we do is we get to the end user. We show them how versatile this is. They say, yeah, we're going to use it. The contractor comes in, says, we don't want to use it. The end user says, you're going to use it. Once the job gets done, guess what they all say afterwards? Wow, that was really easy to use. Like, and then they start using it. But it's getting them to do that initial big job with the project.
How long has it been around?
About 3 years, and it's catching on. Every year is more and more. Here's another, you know, benefit to it. So here's a regular patch panel, right, with the Rev Connect backs on it. So now all of a sudden you terminate all your jacks, and instead of having this on a rack and having to punch it down, you're able to just slide your jack in there, you know, your core in there, and it's locked in there. You know, and if you want to take it out to repair one jack, you can take this out. And you don't have to redo the whole panel. You could just take one jack out and then, you know, repair it if there's something wrong and replace it instead of doing, you know, a whole 6-pack or anything like that.
So how is it with extensions? Like if you have to extend, you know, the big problem with like IDF rooms and MDF rooms is they have to be within a certain distance.
Correct.
They
300, 100 meters. Correct.
Right. You can't extend the you know. You wind up re-pulling a lot of cable just because it's no good anymore because you can't stretch it 10 feet.
Correct.
So you get the same issue.
You still have your distance sometimes. Those are all EIA-TI specifications, and it's 100 meters. So you can't go, you know, past that. Some of the things that you can do that are better is you don't have to derate your system with our patch cords because they're solid patch cords instead of stranded. So those are just, you know, some little things, but you can't go over 100 meters with that's just part of the specifications.
Yeah, that doesn't matter. Well, that's pretty funny because that to me it seems like, you know, it's a home run as far as labor is concerned. It seems like that to me would take me half the amount of time because I've done a bunch of terminations in my office.
Yep.
And it took me forever because you line up the colors, you have to feather it through that block.
Pain in the butt.
And then you have to go terminate, and this thing was just so much easier. This is so simple an idiot can do it.
I think so. Yeah, I'm here. I'm living proof.
Proof positive. Right? But, I mean, that seems like it's a no-brainer. So that seems like it's easy to sell.
Yeah. I mean, it seems easier to sell than it really is. Like I said, it gets to the field. and guys just don't want to embrace change, you know. So they're, like I said, it's just a matter of getting, like sales, like anything else, 1 or 2 customers at a time, you know, and you get a couple of advocates for it, and then the next guy likes it, and they start talking to each other.
What about across the country? Is this just a local thing, or is this all over the country?
This is all over the world, and we're, you know, in different countries and all the different states. So this product is taking off.
Can you do fiber?
Yep, I can do fiber. I don't have that could be our next podcast. I'd love to do, you know,
fiber podcast.
We can do a fiber podcast. So the new thing with fiber is fuse on connectors. There's no more mechanical splices. So what they do is there's a machine that Belden has that actually melts the connector, the glass. It's a core alignment tool. It aligns the core, the 2 pieces of glass, melts it together. You put a protective sleeve over it, and you melt it. You have no loss.
How do they align it like that?
The machine does it all internally. It does it all the work for you. Yep.
Yeah, I want to see that.
I'll do that on the next one.
You know,
I don't want to overwhelm you with technology.
Yeah, there's only so much I can handle, you know, in one day.
For sure.
But you know, I think the cool thing is that I wanted to see it, you know, and when you brought it over and I did a couple outlets, I was like, this is so much easier than anything I've used.
Yeah.
And really, the only thing I've ever used, it seems like the only way it's ever been done ever.
So until this came out, that's the only way it was ever done. Was a 110 punch down, which is like a V, and you put your cable in between it, and it slices into the cable, and that's just old technology.
Yeah, that's great. You know, I think that, you know, that's something that we
little by little, you know, and imitation is the most sincere form of flattery. Other manufacturers now are coming out with stuff that's similar to this. We have 6 patents on this jack. Belden does. So other people are doing a Me Too, but it doesn't do everything that the Belden one does.
Yeah, I don't. It's the Me Too might be a little bit different.
Yep.
In this industry,
exactly,
than the actual
right.
Me Too,
right.
but that's an interesting product, and even people who don't geek out on stuff like this, you could easily see that it's just so much easier than, like I said, the way I do it. And I don't have the best eyesight for doing stuff like that, so I don't even think you need to have good eyes.
You don't. You just keep the white conductor on the outside. It's a lot easier than the typical jack is. And like I said, you know, like I told you before when we started, it's what makes the heartbeat of your building. People are starting to ask about it. Everybody wants Wi-Fi. You know, when my kids are on vacation, they're calling the hotel to make sure they have Wi-Fi and high speed, and you know, everybody wants to be connected all the time, no matter where they're at.
Yeah, so you know, you also do just that, but you also do a bunch of security stuff.
Yep.
That we haven't talked about, but there's a lot of it. But basically, your communications, networking, AV solutions,
correct,
and security access control.
Absolutely,
right?
And everything, like I said, everything is about the Internet of Things, right? Everything is IP based now. You know, our sound masking.
There's no Ethernet port on it.
Correct.
It's just Wi-Fi.
Yep.
And that bothers me.
Hey, sooner or later, you won't even have an electric port on it. It'll just be a datacom port, you know?
Yeah, I mean, the fact that you can use data cables now to power light fixtures and stuff, I didn't know how. I had heard about it at a couple of different construction, conventions, but I never know they're that close to actually coming out with the product.
It's out. It's being used. You know, Chicago and New York are fighting it the most because of the strong union ties. But
yeah, but the unions didn't. They don't want to. They want to. I think the union wants the best product they can get.
Sure.
I don't think that'll be such a tough fight. That stuff eventually is the way that you're going to have to wire buildings. And then, you know, this big green building push.
Yeah.
That seems to me like it would take a lot less power, or you could power a lot more efficiently that way than running pipe, cable, clamps,
Absolutely.
Pull your wire, terminate it, and everything like that. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool. Well, listen, I really appreciate you coming out.
Thank you for having me.
It was really cool. I think that you'll have to come back and we'll have to fuse some glass.
We'll do that. That'll be the next one. Thank you.
All right, baby. Thanks.
Okay.